Alright, Frieza 700, back at it again with some 40k lore. Here we go, we're going to talk about Imperial Guard Regiment, the Death Korps of Krieg. That's right, we're talking about the World War I enthusiast, the fucking Death Corps.
After the...
Alright, so the Death Korps of Krieg. Why do they look like as if they literally just came from World War I, but in the future? Well, that's because they essentially fight that way. But they do come from a radioactive homeworld. And this homeworld is a death world. And it wasn't always a death world, it was actually made this way around 1,500 years ago. So we're talking roughly 3850, 3750. That's when their world became a death world. Well, since it was radioactive, you can kind of guess what the method of choice was to turn the world this way. Nukes. Big time nukes. Huge nukes around the whole fucking planet. But what would prompt such a planet-wide nuking, especially with billions of people on it, especially since there was no chaos and infestation? Well, long time ago, 1,500 years, there was the Council of Autocrats, who basically ruled the planet. And they were getting really, really greedy. They loved their planet, because their planet was a manufacturing world, a very important manufacturing world that would just churn out tons of materials. But the Administratum was putting higher and higher taxes on them. And they were getting rather pissy. They're like, these guys are taking our power. Well, turns out that these autocrats were also engaging in acts of debauchery. And this acts of debauchery was making them rather paranoid, because as with all Slaneshi followers, you get a little paranoid when you just fuck someone's horse. But they started looking over their shoulder thinking that maybe the Imperium was gonna overthrow them. Actually come down there with a steel boot, kick the autocrats out of power, and then put someone else in charge. This was basically their line of thought. So they decided, fuck it. We are issuing a planet-wide martial law, and the High Lord Autocrat himself declared that the Emperor was not his divine master and was not his political rival. Well, the problem is that the loyalists of the planet, who were loyal to the Imperium, they were kind of swept aside rather quickly by millions of troops who were succeeding the Imperium. Now, that's not saying that the loyalists were outnumbered. They weren't at first. But the change in the succession of this planet to the Imperium came at such a quick surprise that they didn't have a real chance of actually mobilizing to kick out the autocrats. So they all retreated to one hive city Farragut. And this hive city had a very unique history behind it, because it turns out the Adeptus Mechanicus hid some nuclear bombs there. But not just nuclear bombs, hid enough nuclear bombs there to nuke the world several times. Well, Colonel Jurton of the 83rd Krieg Regiment decided, okay, let me contact the Administratum. Let's see what they say. Help is not coming for a very, very long time. And Jurton, I was about to call him Jurgen, but no, it's Jurton. Jurton realizes that the planetary defenses of Krieg are already in the successionist control. It would take a huge resources, huge amount to really take Krieg back. So he decided that the only way to deal with this situation was to make sure no one could win this engagement. If the Imperium can't win, no one can win. So he went downstairs below the hive city with his buddy, the Adeptus Mechanicus, and he activated these nukes. Now, the Loyalists were losing. They were outnumbered. by the millions. And the Hive City was under siege. They were being pushed back and pushed back. But the Loyalists knew that Jurton was about to release nukes, so they kinda started preparing for it. The secessionists, the traitors, didn't know. They didn't even know that there were nukes down there. Next thing they know, several salvos launch into the air, up into the stratosphere, and detonate a giant blinding light. Yep. Your world just got reduced to cinders. So now all that's left on the planet is tunnels, trenches, subterranean hive cities, and a lot of radiation. A lot of radiation. So, this is what led to the Death Korps of Krieg having the military strategies that they use, which is extensive trench warfare, extensive use of artillery, and, well, sacrificial use of bodies. Now, it took them 500 years to actually take the planet of Krieg back from the traitors after they nuked it. I know, that sounds crazy, but it still took them that long. So once they took the planet back, they contacted the Imperium and they're like, hey, we won, woohoo! But the Imperium's like, okay, we weren't gonna send help. Once you nuked the planet, you were totally worthless. We were not gonna help you. But fuck it, hey, we're gonna still send you taxes, but now we're gonna tax you to the maximum because you betrayed us. And to their surprise, the Death Korps of Krieg did send just one Imperial regiment. They sent 20 Imperial regiments. That is a lot of soldiers. That is ridiculous amount of troops. And immediately the administration was like, fuck yeah, we can keep this up. All right, so that will be about 10 regiments per year. 10 regiments per year? Holy fuck. This planet doesn't have a lot of humans left. So to churn out 10 regiments a year would be basically signing a death sentence for the planet. This is why a lot of people speculate that Krieg is actually using cloning technology. And it is openly admitted that they use a Vitier womb. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but essentially the Administratum allows them to use an artificial womb that is illegal, but they allow them to use it so that way they're able to mass produce so many humans. Now, we don't know what this womb does. We don't know if this is like a cybernetic implant to make women hold more babies. We don't know if this is like cloning vats. We don't know what the fuck it is. We just know that somehow it allows them to churn out over 10 regiments worth of troops every year. Another theory is that Krieg is sending out children, not full-grown men. Now, why is this important? Well, the guys wear rebreathers all the fucking time. Now, when you wear this rebreather, it kinda scuffles your voice, so you can't really hear a teenage boy's cracking voice. Well, if you took off that mask, you'd be able to hear it and you'd be able to see it. But, well, Krieg likes to hide behind their rebreathers, and some would speculate that they are in fact children. But you may think, well, why are they so self-sacrificial? Why do they fight atrocious warfare? Well, despite being children and clones and all this stuff, they're actually very sacrificial. They love to kill themselves. I am not fucking I can't stress this enough. Every engagement you'll ever see with Krieg, it's either a slaughter or a suicide. That's it. They either win, but it's a fuck fest where they just get slaughtered and they win, or it's a suicide where the whole regiment dies, they took some guys with them, but that's about it, they lost. It's a suicide. So why do they open their mortality so quickly? Why do they want to just die? Like, this form of fighting is clearly not working. Why wouldn't they switch it up? Well, from birth to death, to them, they have been told and they have been sung, they have been really indoctrinated that living is to be a shameful thing because of the betrayal their people did 1,500 years ago. To live is to be in shame, guilt, all these bad things. But if you die, you atone for that sin. You die, and you are now re-enlightened by the Emperor's light. To die is really the ultimate thing you could do. So in that sense, these guys will actually jump on a grenade and dogpile it because every single one of them want to die. They're not, I don't want to make it sound like they're suicidal. They're not. It's just that they always try to sacrifice themselves for the Imperium because they believe that by sacrifice will they atone. So they're not going to just pull out their pistol and blow their heads off going, oh, I'm so sinful. No, instead they're going to actually find a grenade, and instead of telling the squad to get back, instead they're just going to sit right on top of the grenade, let it blow their sphincter wide the fuck open, and then when they keel over dead from the anal trauma, their commissar is going to be like, well, he's such a great man. He died for all of us. Now, commissars. Now that we talked about commissars, let's address what a commissar does in a death corps. Well, in the death corps, he's gonna more or less not really do what a normal commissar would do. So, again, this is kind of pointless for a commissar to even be in a death corps of Krieg, but the only reason why a commissar is there is mostly because Krieg has betrayed the Emperor in the past, so he's kind of meant to come along as disciplinary. But, this is a big but, the Death Corps of Krieg would never surrender. They take it to the extreme. They would rather die than pull back and set up somewhere else. So really, the commissar is not there to shoot you in the face whenever you decide to turn tail and run. No, that's not the commissar's job anymore. Now the commissar's job is to just grab you by the back of your neck and go, no, don't jump on that fucking grenade, we're fine. Go back in line. God damn it, stop killing yourself. And that's essentially what the commissar is going to be doing. But also the commissar is supposed to act more or less like an ambassador between other Imperial Guard regiments, because Krieg doesn't really get along with other Imperial Guard regiments. Because other Imperial Guard regiments would happily sacrifice themselves just because it's the right thing to do. Others would sacrifice themselves because God wills it. Well, they don't agree with Krieg, because Krieg seeks to die because they believe living is a shameful fucking thing, and that they should die so that way the Emperor can forgive their children, because they're all blasphemers in their eyes. Well, that doesn't really settle well with everyone else, who may have just lost a comrade, and he's a Cadian guard, and he takes very serious when his brother just died. But then here comes this Krieg emo fucking teenager who goes, oh, good, finally he sacrificed himself. What a worthless piece of shit. Well, at least now he's a good person because he died. Yeah. You better hope that Cadian doesn't fucking stab you in the gut. Like, oh, God. And this is what the whole reason for the commissars existing in the Imperial Guard Regiment is to kind of ease it up here. Mostly by segregating the regiments away from each other so that way Krieg soldiers don't just start dying because they're idiots and they're emos. So, what is the military doctrines of this? Well, they fight a lot like the Valhalla Ice Warriors. They use heavy artillery and infantry. A lot of infantry. But not just infantry, heavy infantry. That's the difference. Valhalla Ice Warriors just use massive blocks of infantry with little to no armor. Krieg uses heavy infantry. So we're talking big boots, big armor, that's it. They are going to stomp down normal infantry units. Anyone who doesn't have the sheer, more or less, firepower that they're packing is going to get plowed. But also, they come with rebreathers, so really, they actually request this. This isn't like the Administrom using their heads for once. No. Every general of every Imperial Krieg regiment always requests to be sent to the harshest battle zone. And there's a reason for that. Because of their rebreathers and because of their experience on their homeworld, they know how to avoid certain natural hazards like toxins, poisons, radiation, ash. They can deal with that. Arcadia would be good against, you know, stuff like heavy impacts, holding a bunker. But Krieg is better for artillery, massive attrition, losing a bunch of guys, pushing through a toxic marsh, stuff like that. And Catachin would be good for rainforest type scenarios. But Krieg is specific for radiation, ruins, toxic environments, and they'll excel. They're basically Nurgle, but loyalist. So that has been an introduction, more or less, to the Death Corps of Krieg. I hope you guys enjoyed, and see you guys next time.